Hi, I'm Natalie for So Hungry Hippie, and today we are going to make the Christine Sling. It is such a cute purse slash bag from Love You Sew Patterns. She did an excellent job with this pattern. As always, you can follow Christie's pattern to the T if you want to. Inside this video tutorial, I made a couple of changes, you know how I am, and so that's how I sewed it up. I would love it if you could just listen to the introduction where I discuss some of these changes because it's really important. So that's coming next. And remember, take your time. Take a few days to sew this bag. There is no rush. Just get it done. Get in there and do it. That is the name of the game. All right, I'll see you on the inside. Okay, first up, let's go over a few changes that I'll be making. Remember, Anna Maria Box 10 is a full kit, so whatever I use in here, we're gonna put in the box for you, so you can make it exactly like I am. According to this pattern, we're gonna be making View B. However, we're not using vinyl. I just did not want to add piping to this situation because the bag has a lot of steps. It's not difficult. It just has a lot of steps. And I wanted to simplify it down as much as we can. So I'll be doing that, View B. We are going to use water-resistant canvas for the lining. This will help cut down on some of the interfacing and the prep work that typically always has to be done when we're doing bag making. So I will put water-resistant canvas in this shade of purple in your Anna Maria Box 10. Now everyone will get this print. It might be in the other deeper colorway. We will see what happens. I think right now we have enough to send exactly this print to most of you. As for zippers, I'm going to be using my So Hungry Hippie number 5 zippers and pulls. We are using hardware in this kit. However, she calls for half inch. Half inch hardware is very, very, very small, and it's a little flimsy. So we're going to use 3/4 inch. I'll walk you through it. Not a big deal. She also calls for a 1.5 inch slider, which will be in your box, and a 1.5 inch rectangle ring. However, I only have the D rings. We can substitute rectangle for D ring at any point in time, if I'm going to do that. We are going to put purple, lavender, light pink, any kind of coordinating color binding pack in your box 10. Okay, other than that, as for the interfacing, I'm going to be using the Calidel SF101 substitute, and I'll be using the Calidel substitute for Decoville Light. It's much lighter, so I might need to layer it up. I might not. We'll see what happens. Again, whatever I do, we will include in your box 10. Decoville Light you can absolutely use if you have it. It is very difficult to source right now. None of my wholesale suppliers have it. I can't find it anywhere. So if you rather use that, please feel free. But I can't supply that to all my subscribers. So that's why I'm going to use a substitute. As with sewing, a lot of times you just make it work with what you have. And that's what we'll be doing. It's going to be awesome. Okay, let's get started. First thing with the pattern, I go through and I circle any titles or View B specific instructions, and I cross out View A. This is just what I do to keep myself organized and hopefully making the right version, right? So there are a lot of little cute details that she has in this. Remember, you can always substitute. If you don't have snaps, if you don't have rivets or whatever else we're doing with this bag, you can always omit that or use something else like a Chicago screw or a piece of Velcro if you have it. Anything to make it work is fine. As long as you're making the bag, you're entered into our $100 giveaway each month for finished bags with these materials and this pattern. All I ask is you do your best. Are you ready, Ramel?
Yep.
All right, let's go overhead and get going into this. All of the pattern pieces arrive full size. I'm just going to have to iron mine flat a bit. If you are worried about the ink coming off, which sometimes it will, just iron the pieces from the wrong side. My iron is on high heat. I like to do this so it's not so hard fighting these pattern pieces. Makes them nice and flat. And I've cut them all out on the black line. As you can see, we're not outfitting the space shuttle, so just cut it out as best you can. You don't have to cut inside the line or outside the line by 1 millimeter, on the line perfectly throughout. Just cut out the pieces, get her done. Now we do have a lot of these little pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and iron them. If you have a dish or a bowl, you can put these in so you don't lose them during construction. That's a good idea. I don't know yet if I'll be using all these different pieces. We will see. All right. So first up, this one is the front and back interfacing, and this is supposed to be the firm. So I have 2 pieces of this Cali-Del substitute for Decoville Light. And I'm going to line up the 2 pieces, line up the side, line up that top edge, and then cut out my pieces. Now this one is slip pocket. We need 1 main fabric, 3 lining, and then it says 4 woven interfacing. But because we're using water resistant canvas, we can cut just 2 of the SF101. Okay, and if you need to write yourself a note, if using WRC, you only need 2, go ahead and do it. These are your pattern pieces to keep. So here's my main fabric. That I just need 1. So this is a slip pocket. Okay. So most likely it's not going to be viewed much in the bag since it's, is this inside or outside? Oh, this piece will be on the outside. Okay. So let me line it up. Sort of a little fussy cut here. Now remember, when I'm filming, it's a little bit more of an awkward cut for me. You want to keep the blade, if you're right-handed, to the right of where you're cutting. You don't want to go under like this or anything. Sometimes I have a bad habit of just wanting to get it in the camera view and not being as safe as I should be. Okay, there's 1. Now I need, these are little half pieces that I'm using. This bag is little, so the materials needed, it's really not that much. And as you get faster and faster, you might want to offer this at your craft shows. Okay, so I'm going to cut this like this. I'm cutting 2 pieces of WRC at the same time. It's 1 piece folded. And then I will make sure that I cut that top edge to make it 2 pieces. All right. Okay, now this will definitely have to be lined with interfacing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of my SF-101. Let's cut them both at the same time. Okay, probably both of those pieces will go on to the back of the mane. In fact, let's just do it right now so it doesn't get lost. So the bubbly glue dots go down facing the wrong side of the fabric. I usually start in the center and then push outwards. It always grows. It always grows. That's why I have to trim interfacing after I fuse it on. Now there's one piece, and then I'm going to take this second piece, lay it right on top of that one, and fuse it. See how it grew around the edges here? Just going to clean it up. Okay, awesome. So now I can put these pieces all together with a clip. And they're prepared. All right, set that to the side. Now this one is all views, front and back, mane. Okay, so, and note your fabric direction, although our fabric is non-directional, so we've got it easy. I'm going to cut the mane first. I think I want it to have a little bit of all of those colors. As you can see, I like to rough cut first. And then I'll come in and clean it up. And oftentimes with bag making, the prep takes longer than sewing it together. That's just the nature of it. Okay, we need 3 pieces of the lining. I think I can probably cut all 3 at one time. I just have to make sure everything is within the bounds here. Yep. Good. You don't have to do this. You can cut one at a time. There's nothing wrong with it. If the curves are giving you any trouble, just go down a size in your rotary cutter. You could also pin and cut these out with scissors if it's easier for you. You shouldn't be pressing really hard with your rotary cutter. If you have to press hard, it's time to change your blade. All right, there's 3. And now we've got to interface this. So I'm going to do, again, with the 2 pieces of SF101. Okay. Rather than 4. Now, since I'm just going to clean it up after anyways, I'm going to go ahead and fuse. You can do it this way, or you can do it where the fabric is up. The reason I do it this way is because I can clean off my wool mat really easily. Cleaning off my iron is easy, but it's annoying to me, so I do it this way. And that piece is stuck on, so now I'm going to fuse the other piece. Glue dots facing down. Doesn't take long. Flip it and clean her up. Right. There are those pieces. Now we need to cut the gusset, 1 main, 1 lining, 2 woven interfacing, 1 firm. So I've already cut the firm interfacing. I cut 2 of these because I'm thinking I may only need to use the 2 of the firm interfacing rather than 2 different interfacings. So let's try this. I need to cut 1 main. And we're non-directional, so I can absolutely cut it like that if I want. So let's cut it this way. I'm going to fuse this first and then trim it down, because with strips, it's sometimes easier to just interface them first and then cut them out. Otherwise, they like to stretch, those longer pieces of fabric. Okay. I've got a straight edge at the top, so I'm just going to clean up the bottom and the sides. Get my ruler. And where you need a lining as well. I can use that straight edge there. Remember, don't cut like this. This is just because I'm on camera. All right, that feels really stiff, so I think it's going to work like that. So what I did there is 2 of the firm and no SF101. And if we're making notes. So I'm going to make a note, 2 firm, 0 SF101. I just make a note to myself so I remember what to do next time. Okay, looks like zipper pocket and zipper gussets we need to cut out. So this is 1 main and 3 lining and 4 interfacing. So again, we are not going to need 4. We're going to need 2 SF101, or maybe just, we'll do 2 on the main, 2 SF101, and the lining, no interfacing. So just make my notes. Here's 2 pieces, and I'm going to cut all 3 at once. So I need another, like down to here, just to be safe. That's the nylon, so you don't want to tear it. Here we go. There's 1, 2, 3 pieces. Okay. Where did my main piece go? Didn't I just cut the main, or did I not cut it yet? I guess I didn't. It just feels like I have, because so many of these shapes are the same looking. Okay, zipper pocket. Let's do this. We're going to do 2 of the SF101. I'm going to fuse first. Okay, so we've got all of our pieces there. Now this one is the zipper gusset, so looks like 2 main, 2 lining, and we will do 2 SF101, not 4. This piece I can fold. And we will cut the lining first. You can use your ruler if it makes it easier for you. I think it will. Just always put your blade away. Retract it whenever you drop your rotary. Okay. Now 2 main. Uh-oh. Let's make sure this is legit here. Okay. There we go. Okay, we need to interface these two strips, and I'm gonna iron those down so that they behave better than how they are. I try to look for a place on my interfacing that is kind of skinny, and I can just utilize the little strips. Oops. Yeah, it's a little thin. I should have just cut it properly, but try to use all those little pieces. My Teflon sheet over the WRC just as a precaution, and see how flat it is now. All right, so those are the zipper gussets. It can look crazy, so be sure that you have your pattern piece there, because you might just think, oh, it must be a stray strip of fabric. Front slip pocket tab. Okay, I'll cut this out. I'm not 100% yet if I'll be using it, but let's cut it out all the same. And I'm gonna do one interfacing. This says cut one main, cut one woven interfacing, just an FYI. I will interface it with this strip. All right. Here are zipper tabs, 1 main and 3 lining. I am going to cut these all from fabric. So that's 4 altogether and no interfacing. That's a change. I'm changing that. So just be aware. I'm going to cut a piece of fabric here and cut all 4 at the same time, hopefully. This is only a time-saving hack that I do. You don't have to do it this way. You could also just measure this little pattern piece and cut 4 from scraps. There they are. I'm not interfacing them. Let's see what we've got left. D-ring tabs, strap tabs, D-ring tabs, slip pocket tab, more strap tabs. Okay, let's do this one. 2 main and 2 woven interfacing. I've got this odd piece here, so I can just cut that. I think it's gonna fit. And then I will interface. Oh, it looks like that one didn't cut right, so I'll have to recut that. See how that was cut? I didn't know it. That's okay. There's one. That one's long enough, so let's do that one. Interface here, and I'm sure I have another scrap. Okay, view A, view A. We're doing view B, right? So these we won't need. And this one is D-ring tabs. That's like tiny little scraps. Let's see. That's the last thing we need to cut. Three main. And 3 woven interfacing. Well, this can be one of them. Whew. All right, 3 pieces for D-ring tabs. That was our last piece to cut out. And I've got all my pattern pieces laid out on my work surface. Just take a minute to clean up your space so that you feel calm and centered. And we're going to come back and get going on the construction. All right, if you turn to page 6, we have a couple more fusibles and some sewing with the D-ring and swivel tabs. So let's go overhead. I have got my Christine Sling front and back main and the firm interfacing, and we're just going to place the firm interfacing on here. But you need your Teflon sheet or a pressing cloth. You want to center it, and there is no right or wrong side to this, so just pick a side, center it, and we'll fuse it on. Now I'm going to use my Teflon sheet because it works for me. You could also fuse this to the main front, but this is what I'm doing. It is a change from the pattern. Just full disclosure there. Ooh. You can flip it over and fuse from this side too. And if it's not sticking for whatever reason, just fuse this centered onto your main fabric. This one, it's okay. All right, so I'm going to put those together again. One is not. Don't worry, it's for a pocket lining later. So, all right, let's put that back. Now we have got the front slip pocket tab, and we've got these little D-ring tabs. Plus, you will have received 2 D-rings. Remember, not 1/2 inch, we're using 3/4 inch. And we're going to make it work. It's going to be just fine. You will fold in a little bit each long edge, like a scant 1/4 inch. They won't quite touch in the middle, which is a change from the pattern, but we do it this way so that our hardware works. Now, if you're having trouble, you can always use double-sided sticky tape to hold those edges in. Nothing wrong with that at all. So see how we want them in, and we're going to sew down each long edge and then fold it over. I think it will just be better if we use fusible tape. Let's just do that. It's a better situation than to have to fight with these raw edges. There it holds, there it holds. Now let's go to the machine, and I'm gonna sew down each long edge. So it does catch that. And then the other side. Trim those threads away. And we'll sew that down in just a minute. Do the same over here. and in towards the center. We want everything to look uniform, so we're going to sew it down again. You can pivot if you want. That one I'm going to hold on. Front tab slip pocket, same thing. Okay, we fold this one in half and then we top stitch all the way around. You can see the photo on page 7. Thank you. Now, I don't know where this is going yet, so I'm just going to clean up the edge. If I need to pink shear this, I can. I will, however, do a little bit of fray check on the edge. And that can dry while I'm doing the rest of the bag. Now, I'm going to set that up and out of my way for the moment. I'm going to do the same for these. Now, while we're here, we can sew right across here to keep that the D-rings in place. So I'll go to the machine, get as close as you can. If you use a zipper foot, you can get really close. And a lot of machines will let you also change the position of your needle. So do whatever you can to get as close as you can. Remember, we don't need perfection. We just need the best we can do today. All right. I'm going to set those up here and out of my way. Clean up my space again. And we're back to the pamphlet. So now we did the interfacing. We prepped 2 D-rings and that snap tab thing. The front pocket tab is what that's called. So now we're going to get into making the strap. Now I'm going to make mine from fabric. I've already interfaced it. I have the, where is it? Oh, I didn't even cut it yet. I cut the gusset. I'm going to cut mine from fabric and probably, I think, pad it a little bit, either with fusible fleece or some foam. Let's see how it feels. I like to have my shoulder straps with a little bit of padding up here if possible. Not always possible. Sometimes just a leather strap also does it. So remember that is an option if you just want to use a leather strap. But let's get into it. This is page 7 and number 7, make the strap. And we are going to use a continuous piece of fabric because we stock our boxes with plenty of fabric. So you will have extra. So we're just going to skip right over 7 and 8 and we're going to 9. Fuse woven interfacing following your manufacturer's instructions onto your strap. So a lot of people ask me, what is the best length for a crossbody strap? And I try to cut them at about 54 inches. That covers most people just fine and comfortably, and often you can just cut away any excess if it's really too much. Some people go with 60 inches. It's really personal preference. So let's go back to that chart on page 4. You will see that. See the strap there? Yeah, she's calling for 60 inches. So there you go. You can cut it at 60 inches. You can cut it at 54, which is probably what I'm going to do. because I'm only 5'4". I know I don't need a 60-inch strap. And also utilize your selvage straight edge. Straps can be cut on any cross grain, with grain, whatever you want to do, just not the bias, because then it'll stretch like crazy on you. So don't do that. We're going to cut it 6 inches wide. My ruler is 6 inches wide exactly. So if we go overhead, I'm just going to clean away the selvage. Turn it. Line up that raw edge with my ruler. And I'll cut, let's see, how long is this piece? Okay, so I will have to piece it. That is, okay. Just cut 2 strips. Now I don't get worried about combining this all fancy. Let's just put our 2 short edges together. This is what I've done for 15 years. All right, I'm gonna go to the machine. We're gonna interface this, so it's gonna be just fine. There's my seam. I will flatten that in just a minute, but first, I would like to cut this in half. So, or cut off some length. So this is right here. Let's go to, I'm weird like this. I'm gonna put my seam at the 30-inch mark here. That's right at 30 inches. I'm gonna come down here on my left. There's at 30 inches. And I'm gonna cut this off. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. Flip it around. This is at 30 inches. That way my seam is right in the middle. Does that make sense? If our strap is 60 inches long. So now nobody can say, oh, but your seam isn't in the middle. Let's flatten that baby up. Oof. I'm going to utilize this firm interfacing that I've got sitting here. I'm just going to use it. Use it, use it. So again, with the ruler along that straight edge, I could even come off a little bit because I don't want any poking out. So I'm cutting it at 5 3/4-ish. Let's do this one in the middle, since that's going to get stressed the most likely, over my shoulder here. You really want this part and the 2 short ends at the very end of the strap to be the strongest parts because they get the most wear. So I'm gonna put this firm glue side down here first. And then the ends going out from here, I'll use my scraps of SF101. So are you clear on that? I'm going to utilize what I've got. I'm using the firm right now. And then I'll use my remainder of SF101 for the rest of the strap. And then if I need to slide any fleece or foam into the shoulder area at the end, I've done that a million times. I'll show you how to do that if we need to. Nothing wrong with fusing these pieces. Works all the time. I've done that for years. Use every last bit. This one I'm going to put here. Oh. I'm going to go down to this other end. Just need a little bit more. Here we are. Remember, the glue dots face down against the wrong side of the fabric. Give it one last press from the front. Clean up any edges that you see there, because it might make you think that you're sewing something that's not. You need to be sewing the fabric. Here we go. Don't worry if it's trying to lump up on you. If that happens, you can pull this stuff up. I just want to show you that. It's not be all end all. You can pull it up and refuse it if you have to. You see that? It's not ideal, but it can be done. With the amount of times I've ironed things in wrong, I had to know that that would work, and I've been doing that ever since, so it does work. Just make sure it's flat again before you repress. And if you want to use a spray starch or some kind of thing like this, even just for the smells, you can. Okay. Let's get this strap sewn. So I'm going to turn back to step 9. We just fused that interfacing. We just did that. We used our scraps. We're being frugal. We're doing what we have to do to get her done. And then we're going to fold it in half lengthwise, wrong sides together, just like we did the other things, right? Open back up, fold each long side into the center crease and press again. So it's exactly what we just did, just on a bigger scale. All right, let's go overhead. I'll show you on this little section, and then I'll have Ramel speed up the rest. And then we're like this. Okay. Okay, let's sew this down at the machine. Remember not to pull on your strap. Let the feed dogs do the work. I take my strap out, I inspect that edge, and then to prevent the twisties, I flip it over and I sew in the same exact direction that I did the first time. Again, not pulling, just allowing the strap and the feed dogs to do their thing. Now, she has you sew a couple more rows of stitching down the strap. If you want to, you can measure and mark lines. I just use my foot. So I'm going to use my foot here and go off my previous stitch line and just do a foot's width. Back to the same direction again. Another foot. One more time. I'm going to go right in the middle here. Not bad. Okay, so now we're down to the next step on page 8, which is number 11. At each short end, she wants us to fold it in like a triangle and glue it down. So I'm going to take you overhead and show you this. Although I'm going to see if my machine can just tack it down, bar tack, right over here. If you don't want to do this, you don't have to. Now, the important thing is that you're doing it on the correct side for each end. So without your strap twisting, make sure you're folding it in on each end the right way. Now, before I tack this down, I'm just going to make sure I'm not supposed to put any hardware on yet. Okay, no hardware is on yet. I am going to bar tack these down. You can glue if you prefer. Okay, we are on to step 12, which says for view A, move to 13, but we're doing view B as best we can anyways. So view B, fold each short end of the strap tab by 1/2 inch and glue in place. Here's strap tabs. The two little strap tabs that we interfaced already, here they are. We've got to fold the long edges into the center. So again, I'm going to use double-sided sticky tape to assist me. Okay, our strap tabs are prepped there. And now we're gonna fold in each short edge. She says to glue it. If you have some glue, that's fine. I think, you know what I'm gonna do? We're just gonna see if the tape works. I'm not a huge fan of a ton of glue in my bags because I'm always worried it's gonna come undone. I have a feeling we will be sewing over this later, so. And if we don't, I can always sew over it. Oh, that one didn't have any. All right, and over. Over. All right, now you can always use your hammer if it's not flat enough for you. Looks like I took mine up front. I'm gonna have to go get that. You can always hammer those ends down a bit. Okay, we are going to feed these through our swivels. And then these are going to go on the end of the strap, but we'll get there in a minute. Now, if you feel like this isn't going to be strong enough, you could always tape another like little smidgen of WRC. See what I mean? Just to have it on the inside there. It gives it a little bit of strength if you want to do that. It's not a terrible idea. Swivels and D-rings, those things get a lot of stress during use. Incur a lot of stress, I should say. All right. Now I'm going to bring it around like this. It just seems so long, doesn't it? So we bring this down onto the strap like this. I'm not a fan of putting the holes in before you slip it on here. So that's why I do it in this order. Now, if you're not going to use rivets or Chicago screws, you could just omit this part. You can always use a bigger swivel and just feed it onto the strap itself if you don't want to do this little treatment here. Up to you. I'm going to grab this. I'm going to do one down here by the fabric ends. The first one is always easy. The second one, you got to make sure you put it in the same place as the first one. So I've always slipped that first rivet in first so I can remove, it's not set, it's not permanent, it's just set in the fabric. Because then I can see, okay, where do I need to put the second one? I think I want it here. Press that down, make a little indentation for myself. That's like my hole marking. Go through all the layers. Push this through. Oh, tell me I did it straight. Sometimes, don't beat yourself up about this. This has happened to me. Sometimes I have to come in again and make that hole just a smidgen more centered. And it's covered up by that 12 millimeter dome. That's why I love using 12 millimeter. You have more room for error if you mispunch a hole. So I'm just setting those with my fingers right now. Let's do the other end. So that I can set them all at one time. Whoop. And again, all the way down to touch the fold. I don't want any jangling about. It's centered. Now I'm going to bring it back over and grab my rivets, which I seem to have left on the floor. Now I am using silver rivets. Rainbow rivets are very expensive compared to silver and gold. It's just silly, and they're harder to find. Okay, here we go. I'm going to get it about the same as I can. Ugh, it does want to move on me, so I'm going to have to put a clip in there. Can't have that baby moving. I'm cutting a hole through all the layers at one time. There we go. I put the long post through first to the back, and then I put the little cap on. And this is not permanent yet. This is just so we can get it pretty accurate. There's my whole guide for the next one. If you have to separate the layers and push that through one by one, you can. See, that's fine. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna set that one. Now I need my table press. I will link all this stuff for you in the pattern or information sheet so that if you want to invest in yourself in these presses, you can easily and use my coupon code. Because let me tell you, I have never regretted getting these presses and cam rivets and snaps and dies and grommet setters. It makes it so much easier than a hand tool. Oh my gosh, I just will never ever use a hand tool again. Not only for accuracy and centering, but also just ease on your body. There they are. It's kind of cute. Trim up your threads. Just do it now. I really like that strap. We're gonna have to make a variation for this strap. That D-ring is not low enough for us to work with. So I'm going to omit it. And this is what we're gonna do. So that 8-inch piece that we cut off, I just took off the D-ring because it was not fitting well. And I'm gonna fold it over like this. Then I'm gonna stick in, I'm gonna turn under the raw edge and then stick in the D-ring here. If you don't care about that little D-ring for your keys to hook onto, then just leave it out. This is my fix to try and make this a little more user-friendly. Here. So we'll put one on this side. And then I got to make sure that this is tucked under the same amount so it's even. And I'll put a D-ring over here. Or I mean, sorry, a rivet over here. Not low enough. Okay, I made it work. All right, so we have a workable strap now. Sorry, that took me a minute to figure out. Sometimes, you know, when you're new to a certain bag pattern, this is why we need to read through it so many times. So, at least we've got it there. This is the bougiest strap I've ever made. So, that's exciting. Now we are on page 11, make slip pockets. This would be step 24, but because of the view, we get to skip to step 26. So let's go overhead. You're gonna grab your slip pocket piece, which is here. We have got a main and a lining and then 2 more linings, and we're gonna sew them right sides together, right along that top raw edge, press it open, and then top stitch. So I'll show you. Let's go to the machine. I'm gonna also grab my 2 lining pieces, which are WRC, and sew those together along the top. All right, now I'm going to press. So what I like to do is first, ooh, my cord keeps catching on the edge of that corner. I press it there first, then I bring it up and over, but I like to make sure that that edge is very crisp. And then I press it again. Make sure it looks good to me. And then we're gonna top stitch right along that edge. And then the same thing for this side, I just bring it in here. Sometimes I need to bring my finger along that seam and pop it out some more. And then because this is WRC, I want to use my pressing sheet. And then we'll top stitch that as well. All right, let's go to the machine. All right, so these are top stitched. I'm going to set the lining one out of the way for the moment, and we're going to grab the front main body. So if I fold these in half and make a crease, I know where the middle is. I'm not a fan of notches, because you might have notched this, but then the notch is gone once you sew it together. So I just use the centering crease trick and line these up. Okay, so that looks good. I'm going to use some clips. Now, before I get ahead of myself, we have to decide if we're going to use the whole snap tab thing. So if you want to, remember we made this snap tab. It has a raw edge up here. That would go here. We'll put a snap here, and we would need to set our snap here before we sew this down. So I can do it. I've got a cam tabletop snap press. If you don't want to do this, you do not have to. You could either leave that off entirely and just have a slip pocket, or you could sew it on and either put a button here, and you could put a piece of Velcro here, piece of Velcro here. You could do that and cover it with a cute button, whatever you want to do. But I will stay true to the pattern and show you what I do. So first I'm going to put it on the end without the raw edge. And I want it pretty centered, not too low. So that looks pretty good. All right, and I need my press. We do have to switch a die in the middle of placing the snap. So I am going to show you all of it. I do have a tutorial on my website if you've never done this before. It's linked there. I have to find the right one for the die that I currently have in. So that goes up there. And this is going to be here. And then I place it. So there's one side of the snap. Now this is going to get sewn in here, right? So if I press it down, it makes a kind of a guide hole for me here. If you want to get in there, I can see it. It's going to be hard to see for you, but I can see the guide hole. And what I have to do is take the spiky bit from the wrong side and push it through as best I can. There. I can see it popping through. Now it needs the mate to this one, which is why I have to change the die setter. Because this one is the stud setter. And this one is the, what's it called? Socket setter. And I put all my tools back so I don't lose anything ever. I place this up in the socket. And I'm taking it away from the main body, and I'm going to set that. See how that spike is up? So I know that my placement is going to be perfect. And there it is. And now I'll test them, and it works. So I am golden. I can sew that down, and I can sew around the pocket now. I'll move this out of the way. Nowadays, you can get a snap and rivet press all in one. I bought these a decade ago, and it was not an all-in-one option at that time. All right, let's sew this together. I'm gonna do this guy first. Come over here. I always backstitch at the top of pockets. And there's part of our front. That's going to be so cute. All right, I got to move my snap box out of the way. Let's see what's next. Take a breath, take a coffee break if you need one. I know there are a lot of steps in this bag, but again, it's not difficult. Just take it one thing at a time. Okay, so we have completed 26, 27, 28, and 29. Step 30, that's still about the, oh, that's the lining. Let's do the lining. Do you want a snap on your lining? The bag is very, very small. So I suggest doing the slip-in pocket without a snap, because when I did my mock-up, it kind of shocked me how small the bag is. So I don't think you need to be worried about your pockets bagging out. They're small pockets. So let's go back overhead. And I'm going to place my slip-in pocket on top of the lining main body piece. And again, we will sew around the edges to sew it down. This seems like it might barely fit a phone after we're completed, maybe. Okay, so if you wanted to do a snap, you would want to set that now, but I am not going to do that. So now we can go to constructing the zipper pocket, which is step 32. All right, let's get busy with this zipper pocket. First, you're gonna grab your zipper pocket pieces and see this line? We're actually gonna cut all the pieces. So let's go overhead and make sure that all of these are lined up. You can always cut one at a time if that feels better for you. I'm gonna use my ruler and my 60mm rotary cutter. And cut. Whew. There we are. It's kind of nerve-wracking a little bit. Then we're gonna take our zipper and let's do a 7-inch piece, even though this is, okay, so it says 7. I'm gonna cut it 7 1/4 because I have to put on my pole. I brought in these cute sewing machine poles, so I'm gonna use one of those on here with my zipper jig. All right, our zipper tabs, we're gonna cut all of these in half. See that dashed line? Now we have 8. Ooh, somehow I didn't cut that one. Lay your zipper tabs right sides together. The zipper is in the middle being sandwiched, and we're gonna sew right across the end. Now flip it, wrong sides together, and top stitch. So Hungry Hippie zippers are nylon. Even though they look metal, it won't break your needle. Okay, let's do the same thing to the other side, the other end. Here we go, back to the machine. And now I'm going to measure and make sure it's 8 inches in total length. And what I'll do is just trim off a little of the zipper tabs, but I'm nervous about that. So let's see how it fits first. Let's take one of these. Okay. So see how we want it to fit here? That's why I'm gonna take off on these ends a bit. Not just strictly based on the measurement in the pattern. I always like to make sure it's good before I cut anything, because cutting is permanent usually. All right, so that carries us through step 35. So step 36, with the zipper right sides facing up, we're gonna do our sandwiching thing again. Now, if you want to, you can use the double-sided sticky tape. We need one lining and one main. Do this. Oof. There we go. All right, I'm gonna place this right sides down and matching that top raw edge. You might need to flip it over. See how it moved on me? It's because that piece is so small. So just flip it over and match that top raw edge. Make sure your pole is down out of the way. There we go. And then we're sandwiching it with the lining piece. I'm just going to use clips on this part. And we will sew all the way down. That up. I always press it from this side as well. Sometimes it takes a couple of pressings. A whack with your hammer would be good too. We can top stitch that now just to keep it behaving nicely. So I'm going to take it to the machine and go up to a little over a 3. And now we'll do the bottom. All right, let's go to the machine. Now I'm coming up to that pole and it's a little bulky, so I lift my foot, slide it out of the way, and then put my foot back down. And it gives me a better result. Now we're going to do the same thing. I have pressed this out of the way and now I'm going to top stitch. All right, our outer zipper pocket is complete. Now we're going to repeat those steps for the inside pocket. Did I cut too many of these? No, I didn't. Okay, let's get more zipper tape. If you need to, you can sew these together. Makes it a little easier to handle. Now I'm going to top stitch. Okay, so step 38, we're gonna take that interfaced, I use the firm interfacing on one of the lining pieces and place that on our work surface. And then this will go on top, I believe, is that correct? So I really need this to be straight. And this is cut a little large here, so I'm just checking placement here. This side is absolutely correct. And this, see how I went a little rogue and didn't trim that quite up how I needed to. There we go. That's better. All right, let's baste stitch this down, although I'm gonna do a 4 millimeter. A little smaller baste stitch than normal, just because I'm working with this WRC. Water resistant canvas. All right, there's that one. And we're gonna do the same thing for the outer zipper pocket. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just doing the exact same thing for the main. All right, and go all the way around. Still using that 4 millimeter stitch. All right, I'm just gonna trim up some of my edges that weren't cut perfectly. I know this about myself. I often am not very super detailed when it comes to cutting pieces out. So I often have to trim them up mid-bag making. And it's not much. I'll show you what it is overhead here. It's not much, but it can make a difference. So this is what I had to trim away. This one looks pretty good, but there's a little bit here. All right. And the threads. So we are skipping step 39, that's adding piping. If you want to do that, go ahead. You can always reference my Vivian tutorial if you want to do piping and you've never done it before. In the Vivian bag, I show you how to do that. On this little tiny bag, I don't think we're going to need it. Okay, we're on page 16. This is step 43. We are going to make the zipper, the main zipper gusset thing now. I need a sip of coffee. Do you ever get a coffee and nurse it all day long? And so then you go to have your coffee and it's cold or lukewarm? All right, let's get our skinny little zipper gusset pieces here. We have 2 main. Let me go overhead. We have 2 main that are interfaced and 2 lining. And I need my zipper, which should be 12 inches long. I'm going to cut mine to 12 and a half. I'm still putting on the zipper pull. All right, so I've got my zipper prepped. I'm going to do one side at a time. Matching that top raw edge as best I can. Just get it as straight as possible. Don't pull on it. Don't try to stretch it. See, that side I didn't get very well. I'm going to lift it and redo it. There it is, pretty good. There. Oh, it's that pull. That cute pull wants to get all up in my way. All right, and now one of the lining pieces. Just make sure that the fabrics, the short ends of the fabrics are lined up. You don't want one to be really long on one side and then it's short on the other end. So in other words, my top fabric, my main, and my lining, the fabrics end at the same place. My zipper is longer than it needs to be, and that's great by me because I can trim that down later. The big serious problem is when it's not long enough. All right, so the zipper is sandwiched inside. Let's go to the machine. I'm going to turn this back down to just under 3. I'm feeling for that zipper pull because it'll bump me out. So I got to move it and put my foot back down. If you have a zipper foot, you don't have to do all that. All right, we'll push those wrong sides together. We'll end up top stitching that, I think, in a minute. Just to keep it held down over here, I'm going to put some clips. When working with longer strips and sections, you might need to use tools to get it out of your way while you're doing the other side. That's really, really normal. All right, now we're going to do this side. And again, line up the edges of the fabric and then this top raw edge. But what I mean is, see how I put this on wrong? It's too short over here and long over here. That's what I'm talking about. So I need to lift it back up and eyeballing this, measure those so they match, and then bring this across and see how this matches now? That's what I'm talking about. And then on this side, the liner. All right, let's sew this down. Let's see. Now I'm going to fold those. I push one out and then I flip it over and push the other out because you'll never get them both right on the first push. It just wants to mess up. Yep, that's good. I'm going to put a clip here or two. And I'm going to do this side. And I'll check it from both sides before I do anything else. You want the zipper teeth clean, so that the zipper can function properly. So we need to have 2 D-rings on each short end of the zipper. So I do have to end up making that 3rd little D-ring thing that I questioned in the beginning. So I am just doing that right now. Folding those long edges in a bit, not all the way, because we're doing this and this. And I'm going to sew this down. All right, let's go back to our zipper. We put one here. I'm gonna need to trim that zipper down so I can reach it. And one on this end. And again, I'll have to trim the zipper. Right there. So let's sew those down. I think I want that tighter. I think I want to move that. See that stitching that I already did? I'm going to sew it up there. I don't like a floppy hardware ever. There, that's better to me. Now I'm going to do this end. I'm starting to get hot. I'm glad we're nearing the end because I am starting to heat up and get too hot. Woo! All right, we're nearly there. Hang in. So now we're on step 45. Match the short ends of the lining bottom gusset and lining zipper gusset right sides together. Here's our bottom gusset pieces. Here's our lining piece. All right, I had sewn this out here previously, and I'm just unpicking those stitches because I sewed it up here and we need to separate the lining from the main, just a smidge. So I'm just going to seam rip a little bit. All right, we're matching the gusset here to the gusset here, and we're sewing just the lining. Move that main out of the way. Let's bring it over here. Now we're going to do the same thing down here. So here we are so far. Gusset to gusset. Now we've got to do the main. Got to move these babies out of the way, and we'll sew across here on each end. Now you're supposed to move the lining out of your way so that it's not as much bulk, but I'm going through everything. I don't have time for that. Here's the gusset. These seams, I'm going to finger press it. They need to be going down towards the gusset. I'm just going to put a clip here for the moment. Seams are down. Okay, we're going to top stitch here and here. We're supposed to push the lining out of the way on that. All right, so let's move the lining out of the way, and we're going to top stitch just the seam allowance here. And now the other side. So I'm going to move the lining out of the way, push the seam allowance to the left, and now I'm sewing it down. Right. To clean up my area by the D-rings in a few. Let's see what's next. Now we have to top stitch around this zipper. So let me get my stiletto. We're going to be going all the way around the zipper like a rectangle. So it's going to take some maneuvering. Let's go to the machine. You might need to decrease your stitch length here. And I'm just slowly feeding it. See how it's kind of going under? If you have an extension table, you might want to remove it for this part. Now this is going to be a little hairy here. Here we go. Turn. You can go slowly over that. And then needle is down, lift the foot. I'm kind of squishing that D-ring out of the way. Go as slow as you need to. Okay. All right, so we're ready to put this together. We need all of our pieces remaining. Let's go overhead. Let's put the bag together. So this is step 48, matching the centering creases or notches, whatever you want to do. Take only the main gusset fabric and clip together with the entire main slip pocket. That's this one. She says each side of the main and lining panels are sewn to the gusset separately in order to avoid bulk and allow for more precision, especially if you use the piping. I've got the top main and the bottom main. Let me see how this fits. We may need to do some notching. We may have to readjust things a little bit. Let's see how this fits. So these curves are where we're probably going to have to do some notching. But let me get this on here first and see how we're ending up. Again, I'm just doing the outer with the outer like she's telling us to in the pattern. It might be hard to see that. I do want to make sure that that seam line and this seam line are ending up the same, so I'm going to check that in a hot minute. Oh, it ended up great. Okay, well, hot dog. Now, let me just check this seam. This one looks a little higher. How can it fit and those not be perfect? I must have to pull this one down just a bit. Okay. All right. Looks good. I'm going to sew it down. Now, starting is the hardest part. So I just moved my stiletto. I am going to have to probably cajole this into working. There we go. There we go. See how good that looks? Get closer. Does look good. Looks clean. Even if your corners aren't perfect on the inside, they can look perfect on the outside. So if you need to release a little tension there, just do tiny little snips, but not too much. And you can do this before you sew if you prefer. I like to sew and then inspect my seam and come in and snip it if I need to. A lot of times you don't need to. But if it helps it lay flatter, then go ahead and do it. And we are going to trim down the seam allowance anyways to reduce bulk. And again, I'm just trimming the outer right now. All right, so that's our slip pocket. So we want our zipper pocket to be on the opposite side of the slip pocket here. So this side we are going to sew the same way, and it will, you know, you can do it. You just got to go slowly. I can't really see my centering crease anymore, so I'm just gonna draw it on here with some chalk. It is important to get these centers correct. Otherwise, you can end up with a lopsided bag. I've done that before. No fun. Okay, right sides together. Here's my centering notch there. Yep. And then here's my centering notch over here. Centering crease. Again, we're just doing the lining, the water-resistant canvas. Aren't you glad you don't have layers and layers of interfacing to deal with here? This is difficult enough as it is, just because it's little. Oops, did I put this on wrong? I sure did. See, you gotta watch yourself. Right sides together. Sometimes the WRC will want to shift. So if you needed to use double-sided sticky tape and use it around that outer edge, it's an option. So is Elmer's school glue. You just use the tools that help you. I think my clips here, my Wonder clips, are tight enough that it won't slip. Let's hope, especially if I'm using the stiletto. Now this is a tight corner. This is the last corner and it's proving to be very tight. So I am going to start sewing there. All right, let's wish me luck and let's get in here. I'm moving this out of the way. These corners, see how much they want to pull in? You're really going to have to fight to pull those out. We can do it. All right, so I want to show you something about the construction of this bag. If you put it together like the instructions say, there really isn't a reason to bind it inside unless you want to, because there will be no raw edges if you put it together that way. You see what I'm saying? There's no raw edges. So this is the inside. This is the outside. And you see there's no raw edges. So you wouldn't have to use binding if you do it that way. Check all your seams, make sure you caught everything. All right, so now I've got this one and this one to put on. All right, we're down the home stretch. We've just got this one left. So we have to have this one and this one. We're going to sew it. Let's do the lining. Shall we do the lining first or second? Let's do it first so that we can really get that exterior perfect. It's just a repeat of everything we already did. You're sewing right sides together so that we can omit that binding. If you don't want to do it that way, sew the bag together, wrong sides together, and then bind the raw edges. It's completely up to you. Both ways are a challenge. So whatever you choose, it's going to be a challenge. But that's why we're here. We're here to grow. Not end up with perfect bags every time. We're here to grow our skills. And that means there won't always be a perfect result, because there isn't when you push yourself. But you do get better and better. A character called Bojangles. Why do I feel like I know a character named that? Did I read a book? This jangly zipper pull makes me think of that. Now it does seem like I'm gonna have to maneuver this a little bit. There we go. All right, let's see what we can do. I'm going to start over here on a side edge, because if I sew in a wrinkle, I don't want it to be on the top center. Okay, you're not going to get a really good view of this part because it is such a challenge. I'll do my best here. Note to self, get a skinny foot like now. right. All right, so the change with doing it this way without the binding is we will need to leave or open a small opening in the lining for turning the bag right sides out. To me, it's fine. That's fine with me. It means I don't have to use binding, then I'm here for it. Just want to get up here a bit, back stitch. And now I'm going to move all these layers as I'm sewing. This way might be more challenging than just doing it with the binding. I just want you to know. You'll have to do the way that works for you. Because of the size of this bag, it is a challenge. Littler bags are harder to sew. It's just the nature of it, at least for me. That's my opinion. Opening that little opening there. I'm trying to burst the bag through. Now I gotta close this up as best and as neatly as I can. Good thing is it is on that bottom seam, so it's not going to be that noticeable. Some people were asking for challenging bags. I gave it to you this month. All right, I am going to trim my threads up. Quite a few poking out all over the place. Now this bag will take some serious pressing. What I would do, if you have a ham, a sewing hand. You could stick it in here and mold all your curves. You can also stuff it with fabric or leftover batting or whatever you have sitting around and really shape it and try to press it into the shape you want. Now, if you did the binding, you won't have to do as much pressing. There's always a give and take. If you did it my way, you're going to have to do some pressing towards the end, but you won't have to bind. That's cute, right? So now we will attach our straps. Sorry, strap. There's one. There's the other. And there's our bag. Either side would be cute as the front. I do need to press this side so it sits a little straighter. Needs a little loving along those edges. But it's going to be very cute, very usable. I can make it sit high up on my body like this. I can make it more crossbody because of that strap. And she has that little, where'd it go? This thing, in case you want to put your sunglasses there, like this, or your keys, maybe if you have them on a swivel hook. So it's just kind of a nice little touch. Whew. I hope you loved it. So there you go. Give it a shot. It doesn't have to be perfect to be useful and to be pretty, okay? So get in there and do it. I will see you soon. Peace, love, sewing.